What if some of the most beloved dog paintings ever created weren't really about dogs at all? David Hockney once said, "The subject wasn't dogs, but my love of the little creatures." These paintings came from a period of profound grief in Hockney's life. He had lost many close friends during the AIDS crisis, and the death of his dear friend, Henry Geldzahler, left him emotionally exhausted and isolated. Retreating to his home in Malibu, he found comfort in the quiet companionship of his two dachshunds, Stanley and Bougie. He later said, "I wanted desperately to paint something loving," and that longing became this extraordinary set of paintings. Today I'm going to be creating my own Hockney-inspired painting using one of my favorite breeds, the Corgi. We'll talk about Hockney's beautiful use of color, why he painted the same subjects over and over, and why these simple dog paintings can teach us about making art that comes from the heart. I'm beginning in my sketchbook because for me and for a lot of artists, the finished painting is only a very small part of the process. Before I paint, I spend time observing. I make rough sketches and studies. I simplify shapes. I try different ideas and compositions. One thing people don't often see is everything that happens before a painting. The sketchbook pages, the failed attempts, or compositions that just don't work. There's studies, there's experiments, many small decisions that eventually lead to the finished piece. I love working this way, and I especially love working in a series because every sketch teaches me something new. Working on preliminary drawings and sketches teaches me so much about composition, about color, about personality and mood. By the time I start painting, I know the subject more deeply, and that's exactly what Hockney did. He painted Stanley and Bougie over 40 times. Not because he ran out of things to paint, because he kept discovering new things. Artists often repeat a subject not because they have nothing else to say, but because they're still learning about it and learning how to say it. For these sketches, I'm using a big, chunky Neocolor crayon. I don't want to get trapped in details. A fat tool forces me to think in large shapes. The curve of the back, the triangle of the ears, the oval of the head, the gesture, the character. These are loose, imperfect sketches, and that's exactly what I need. I think I connect so deeply with Hockney's dog paintings because animals have always been a huge part of my life. Before I became a full-time artist and teacher, I spent many years grooming and training dogs during the day and painting and creating at night. I worked with pet dogs, show dogs, therapy dogs, and puppy groups. I also rehabilitated rescue horses. Animals have been my greatest teachers in observation and presence. And I think anyone who's deeply loved animals understands exactly what Hockney was painting. These aren't pictures of dogs. They're paintings about companionship, about comfort, and about love. Here's the little reference image I'm going to be using for my paintings. I just love corgi dogs. I used to own two. And I have a light sketch of this. One of the biggest lessons I take from Hockney is to paint the essence of the subject rather than every detail. So I'm simplifying everything into big shapes. Here I'm mixing my colors. I'm using some earth tones, and I'm mixing lots of white into my colors. I want a variety of values. Just like when I'm mixing portrait colors, I like to mix dark, medium, and light values so I have a range of values. Hockney's paintings feel so fresh because they aren't overworked. You can almost sense how quickly they were painted. Sometimes painting a little faster helps us stop thinking so much and start responding to what we actually see. We're capturing a feeling here, not creating a photograph. And if there's one place to spend a little extra time, it's the eyes. The eyes often hold the personality of the animal, and it can bring the entire painting to life. While I'm painting this dog, I'm constantly asking myself, what is essential? I don't need every piece of fur. I don't need perfect anatomy. What I want is a sense of warmth, of this little doggy curled up on his favorite cushion looking back at me. The large shapes do most of the work. The warm oval of the body, the soft pink circle of the pillow, and the cool blue surrounding everything. Hockney repeated the same subjects over and over because he understood something important. When we stop worrying about what we're painting, we can begin to focus on how we're painting, and that's where our style begins to emerge. This painting really isn't about a corgi. It's about affection, comfort, the quiet companionship that animals bring into our lives. When I compare my painting to the original photograph, you can see that I haven't copied every detail, and that was never my goal. Hockney teaches us that painting doesn't have to be a photographic record to feel true. I've simplified the shapes, exaggerated some of the colors, and left many areas loose and painterly, but hopefully what remains is the essence of the little dog, the warmth, the comfort, and that familiar expression. Sometimes the details we leave out make room for the feelings we want to put in. And that's one of the reasons I love studying artists like Hockney. They remind us that art isn't about reproducing reality. It's about noticing what matters and finding a visual language to express it. Even here when I'm painting the dog, and when I'm looking at the face, I'm trying to look at the shapes. So the one part I really do spend a lot of time looking at is the eyes, because that is really truly what shows the expression, the personality, and the soul of the animal. So I do spend quite a bit of time really looking at the eyes, and trying to capture the essence of that animal's personality. So I'm talking about looking with soft eyes. And when we look with soft eyes, we're really kind of squinting and looking for differences in value. We're looking for big shapes. And even when we're talking about looking at the face, we're looking for those shapes within the different values. And that's why having like a big variety of values pre-mixed is really helpful. So this dog has colors anywhere from the lightest white all the way down to a very deep gray color, and the earth tones I used were like burnt sienna, yellow ochre. I mixed those together, and I have a whole variety of dark values, mid-range values, and very light values that I'm using. So I just keep looking at the reference, which is in, a very pale pastel-y colors, but I'm looking at those values and just creating these kind of soft tones to create those color variations I see in that photograph. And because I'm not directly copying a Hockney painting, and I'm still bringing some of my own style into this, I just continue to build my layers. And when I have a harsh line or something, I just soften it up with a lighter value, as you'll see me do here in a moment. It doesn't really matter if you work from a reference photograph or you're working from life. You just want to keep going back and forth and improving the different areas of your painting until you're happy and satisfied with the way those look. I thought it was really important to work my way around the dog, improve some areas, and just work on his coat, and then go back to the eyes and really try to nail down that expression. I had started by putting in a lighter color than I knew I was going to want there, and I started working on some of the highlights that I knew I wanted to put in, but it wasn't the final layer that I was going to be putting in. And so I came back in with this darker, almost chocolate brown. It's a much deeper color, and I mixed a little black into it, but it's not jet black. Sometimes black will flatten everything out, so I always mix something else into it. So this time it was chocolate brown. Started with a fresh sheet here, and I'm mixing up some colors for my background. And this pooch was so cute and sleeping on a little pink dog bed that was placed on another soft surface. I think it was a chair in the picture. I can't really tell. But I'm making a little dog bed out of this pale pink that I added a little bit more white to create some tints. Even though I'm starting with a pale pink, I wanted to add some more white to it to soften that color up. We normally think of David Hockney as using very vivid, intense, saturated colors. But the more I study his paintings and the more I've done these intensive master studies, I've noticed that he doesn't use a lot of bright, unmixed colors. Instead, he's creating beautiful tints by adding white to his pigments. The yellows become creamy and soft. His blues become gentle and very luminous. And he creates the dogs themselves using simple earth tones: burnt sienna, yellow oxide, raw sienna, mixed together and with white. Using a variety of earth tones and mixing in white to create tints is a wonderful way to create radiant looking soft earth tones. It's this balance of saturated accents and soft tints that gives the paintings their quiet, emotional atmosphere. As we fill in these background colors, you can really see the dogs start to take shape because we're filling in these background negative spaces and the dog starts to pop out more and more. Here I'm just adding in a little bit of mark making, so I want to blend up an interesting color that will go with the little blanket that's underneath the big pink dog bed. And so this is just something that I do really enjoy doing, and I really like adding mark making to my paintings because I feel like that it gives things movement, direction, rhythm, and it's just an interesting way to work. This is very typical of Hockney paintings as well, so it's very fitting that we do this in this painting. I want to talk about one of the things that Hockney does in his paintings that you might not notice unless you're really into color theory like I am. And one of the things that he does, which I found fascinating, was that in the foreground, he's using a very warm blue, like I'm doing here, and I've mixed a little bit of ultramarine blue, which is the warmest blue. And I'm creating a tint here, and I'm using that in the foreground. Now, the warm colors come forward in the picture plane, and cool colors recede. Now, we all know that blue is a cool color, but every color has a warm and cool version. And what he did in some of his dog paintings was to then take the cool version of that color and put it in the background. And he also used the warmer version because it is still a cool color, and he used that as a shadow in his paintings, which I thought was really interesting and really beautiful. So I did the same, and as a nod to Hockney in my painting. And I thought it looked so beautiful against that pink and yellow. So that's what I'm doing here. Because I had used a little bit of gray that I had thinned out with the matte medium. Now in the background, I'm going in with the coolest cool blue. And I'm going into the background with that. I'm using a, I think it's Brilliant Blue, which is a very cool oceany blue, into the background. Now, cool colors recede in the picture plane. So the first blue, the warm blue, is ultramarine, which is the one that is closest to red, and this particular blue is one that is very close to green. So that's a cooler blue. And you can see it pushes it back in the picture. And so this is one way we can create a foreground and a background in a painting, by using warm and cool colors. And if we use the same color, blue, we can use a warm and a cool version. And because this is a more contemporary painting, I feel comfortable using a non-local color, blue, to create my shadows. And remember, don't overwork these. You're done when you've captured the essence and feeling of the animal. I think that's why these paintings continue to resonate with so many people. They remind us that our pets are never really just pets. They're companions, family members, quiet witnesses to our lives. For Hockney, these paintings became a way to process grief and to celebrate the comfort and unconditional love his dogs gave him. And that's the real lesson of his series. The most meaningful art often comes from painting something or someone you genuinely love.